Good evening. Welcome to the May 20th regular meeting of the Ossining Village Board of Trustees. This meeting is now called to order and we'll begin with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee DeRio,
Present.
Trustee Herrera,
Present.
Trustee Codman,
Present.
Trustee
Yeah, they say present.
Present.
Again.
and Mayor Garrity.
Present.
We have this evening a public hearing, Spring Street Two-Way, Local Law Number 2, 2015. Corporation Counsel?
Yes.
I will introduce this. We placed a temporary pilot into place last year, and this is the law that would make permanent the changes and allow the board to proceed to design and infrastructure change of a permanent nature. What it does in order of the items listed in local law number 2, the first section actually amends the speed limit, limiting from 35 miles per hour, which is standard throughout the village, to 25 miles an hour, from Broad Avenue to Main Street. Section 2 actually is the removal of a portion of Spring Street, which is currently one-way, making it permanently two-way. Section 3 of the law has to do with prohibited parking. It makes permanent the parking spaces that were removed to accommodate the left and right turning lanes from Spring Street onto Main Street. That's in the vicinity of Market Square on the right, and for want of a better word, the Christmas tree site on the left. The time limit parking is the last section having to do with Spring Street, and what it does is it recognizes that with the removal of the parking spaces, that the parking then is limited to different distance courses and distances. So that's set forth in this. And also, the section B of this talks about the fact that meter parking in the area actually supersedes the time limit parking on this portion of Spring Street. So the time limit parking is, although it says 1 hour, the meter parking permits for 2 hours. So there's 2-hour meter parking on that street, and that will remain for the remaining areas that have meters. The final section was in response to some comments about hampering of traffic and circulation based upon loading and unloading along Spring Street. So the board suggested we establish a loading zone and legally encourage box trucks to load and unload. And we've designated a portion of the first part of Maple Street where it intersects with Spring Street. So those are the sections that are under comment this evening. We have been receiving written comments, and those have been compiled and sent to each of you and also to the clerk. So for the record, the written comments will be entered as well, and we recognize that they've been coming in and we've been accepting them. So thank you.
Is there anyone here to address the board on this local law? Kindly give your name and your residential address.
Name is Ed Klotz. I live at 62 Deerfield Lane in Ossining, and I also own the buildings at 2325 Spring Street. I have a few concerns about what you're doing on Spring Street. I'm down there 5.5 days a week, all day long, so I see it every day, what's going on. And I speak from experience, not from smoke and mirrors. Right now, you have a sign coming down off Main Street. You have a sign saying 20 miles an hour. You also have a sign over here by Broad saying 20 miles an hour heading toward Main Street. I didn't know you had dropped it from 30 down to 20, but evidently you have done that. And nobody listens to that law. I cross the street numerous times at Maple and Spring, and it's like taking my life in my hands with traffic coming at me 4 ways four ways, people. You got people coming out of the parking lot wanting to go left and right. You got people coming down Main Street, down Maple, wanting to go left and right. And you've got people on Spring Street wanting to go north-south. It's a nightmare when you try to cross. And I've always asked for a crosswalk, which I have disregarded because nobody will give me one. But I feel sorry for the people from Maple House when they have to cross the street. They have limited liability. They have to because they can't cross and keep up with the traffic. The last thing I want to bring out is you move the loading zone from in front of where the supermarket is going to be. Now, this morning I walked out. There's an 18-wheeler parked in front of my building and with his rear end right at the end of Maple. So when you come down Maple, you want to make a right turn to go to Main Street, you've got to go in the other lane to do that. People, think of what you're doing before you make these arbitrary decisions. You got to be down there, and you got to be down there every day. The 20-mile-an-hour speed limit that's up there posted now, forget it. Nobody bothers that. If you're coming down Spring Street heading toward Maine, if there's a traffic light there and it's green, they're going like they're at the Indianapolis Speedway. Vroom, they got to make, that's the last green light in town.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Klotz.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Hi, my name's Amanda Marsh, 50 Ellis Place in the Village, and I am talking in support of the 2A street. I feel that navigation has greatly improved as a driver, and one of the positives I especially noticed is that there's not as much traffic zipping through the post office parking lot, which I felt very unsafe as a walking to the post office and backing out because cars were zipping so fast through there to take a shortcut from Main Street to Spring Street when it was the one way. I do believe there are a few improvements that can be made to make the intersection and area safer. I agree with the previous person that there should be a crosswalk at Maple to the parking lot. The post office parking lot. There are a lot of people that cross there, and that's where I mostly encounter jaywalkers with pedestrian warning signs. And then a protected crosswalk going from the northeast corner of Main Street and Brandreth intersection, which is in front of the deli, to the northwest corner in front of the salon. There's currently no walk, don't walk signs there. And when you're walking there to the station in the morning, which I do sometimes, there's really no way to tell who has light, who has the right of way. And the last comment I wanted to make is in regards to Brandreth, that drivers coming from Spring Street sometimes don't realize that the traffic coming from Brandreth has the right of way, the straight coming traffic. And I have frequently been cut off coming from Brandreth by Spring Street traffic turning left going towards the station because they don't realize it's part of the same light cycle. So perhaps a sign could be put there saying that Brandreth straight traffic has right of way.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else? Not seeing anyone else, might I have a motion to,
No, I think we were going to adjourn. We were going to adjourn public
Oh, adjourn
comments.
it, yes.
To
Motion to adjourn public comment.
I would recommend, if you're going to do that, to adjourn to a date certain. Otherwise, you'll have to publish your notices. So if you want to determine a particular date to reconvene or a particular date.
what is the next, June 3rd? All right.
Motion to adjourn to June 3rd.
is there a second?
Second.
On the board, I'd like to just clarify for folks. Our Corporation Counsel read off the contents of the law, and I want folks in the community to know that you can come to our meeting in 2 weeks and make public comments. You can reach out by email to our village clerk. It's mroberts@village
Townofaustining.com.
townofaustining.com, mroberts@townofaustining.com, or they could call the village management office, correct? Or you can email Stina Papes, who is our interim village manager. Her phone number is 914-941-3554, and her email is cpapes, C-P-A-P-E-S, @villageofaustining.org. And I appreciate the comments that we heard so far in the official public comment period. I know that everyone on the board and many people in village management have been hearing comments from the public, both for and against, or with specific concerns, particularly about pedestrian concerns have come up several times. Some of the comments and recommendations that were made today, I know we discussed during our work session with the consultant that we're looking to help us prepare for how we might move forward with a more permanent situation in this intersection. So thank you very much for taking the time and sharing your very thoughtful insights.
And could I make a comment as to the 20-mile-an-hour signs?
Sure, please.
They're in yellow. They're not based in law. They are cautionary signs because they're in yellow. The speed limit on this road is 30 miles an hour, and you're proposing to drop it to 25. But the 20-mile and any speed limit signs, they give a speed, and they're in yellow. They're not under the force of law, so they're not able to be enforced by the police department.
Oh, that's interesting.
But if we changed it to officially be 25
Then
miles an hour
you could
speed limit,
post
then
it.
there would be enforceable for anybody
Correct.
driving 30 miles an hour through that area at
That is correct.
that time.
Yeah.
Perhaps we should make it 20 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour even. But we will be enforcing it once it has the force of law, and we'll put somebody out there to write some tickets so people get used to slowing down. Folks, this is by no means a done deal. We incorporated the last bunch of public comment that we received before we brought this to the public hearing into the current draft. We will take all the public comment, either at the meetings, by email, by phone, stopping us on the street. We will take all those things into consideration and give them serious consideration and make a lot of changes. This is by no means finished. So you need to know you've been heard, and if you know other people who have strong feelings about this, get them to call, get them to show up, get them to email. The more people who weigh in, the better this piece of legislation will be when it's finished. Thanks.
We'll move on to mayors and trustees announcements.
We need to vote on the motion, don't we?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Vote-
sorry.
Yeah.
All
Thank
those
you.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
John.
Now we can
we'll
move on.
to mayors and trustees
Keeping us on task here, thank you. Yes, thank you, Madam Clerk. I don't have my flyers with me, so I'll have to just try and speak very clearly. I know, I'm not prepared with my flyers, but I will remind people about a couple of things. One of them is the Solarize program is coming to an end. So if you want to take advantage of the reduced cost of getting solar at your home as part of the Solarize Ossining Briarcliff program, I encourage you to please go online right away to Solarize, just search for Solarize Ossining Briarcliff, and you can find out whether you are a residential property owner or a commercial property owner. We are partnering with all the local municipalities, the villages of Ossining and Briarcliff, the town of Ossining, nonprofit organizations. Green Ossining is our local community activism group that's doing some community outreach, and then we're partnering with selected installers that have been very thoroughly vetted for their quality of service and equipment. And so if you are at all interested in considering solar, I encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. The reason we have it is because we recognize that solar is a terrific opportunity for our residents to save money and to also lower your carbon footprint. But so it's a terrific opportunity, and the deadline for signing up is June 1st. So I encourage you to look into that right now. You have about a week and a half to take advantage of that. And on June 11th, I encourage you to join us in the Ossining Public Library at 6:30 p.m. in the Bedars Theater. Our film this month is called Wild Thing. As we prepare for summertime, some of us with small children are looking for how we will keep our children very active and entertained during the warm weather months. And this is really about connecting children with nature. And so often we see kids today, every generation talks about kids today not being what we were when we were children. But in this case, it's talking particularly about getting kids away from screens and having a little more of a free-range childhood. If you've heard of free-range parenting as sort of a catchphrase these days, where parents get the police called on them if their children walk ahead of them to the corner or walk to a neighbor's house unattended because we have sort of a helicopter parenting mindset. It does address some of those thoughts. I hope you'll join us on June 11th at the Ossining Public Library for this month's Ossining Documentary and Discussion Series offering. Colleagues on the board?
Yeah. Regarding this Solarize Ossining, Russ Solar Group climbed around on my roof last Wednesday, and just today I got this fancy full-color report from them telling me how much money I'm going to save when I put these solar panels on the roof. And I'm going to save $10,628, okay, over the life of the panels. It's going to cost about $9,000 to put them in, but I get a 30% federal tax credit, which takes $2,500 off it, and I get a 25% New York State income tax credit for another $2,500. So my net is approximately $3,800 on my cost to substantially reduce my carbon footprint and to actually create more electricity than I use. So this is a really good thing. I'm doing it. I throw nickels around like manhole covers. I'm pretty cheap. So if I'm investing in this, it's a good deal. So you guys should do this. It helps the planet, and you save some money.
Trustee DeRayo, thank you for being our poster child for the Solarize program. It's very helpful.
Thank you.
So as you all know, it's Memorial Day weekend, and the Central Committee of Organized War Veterans will be hosting their annual Greater Ossining Memorial Day Parade. Step off is at 9 a.m. at Croton Avenue, and it will finish at Nelson Park, and it will be followed by a ceremony at Nelson Park. Usually starts around 10:45, 11. Special thanks to the committee for hosting the event every year. It's very touching, and it's great to honor our men and women of service who have gone before us and who are serving today. And I will be having office hours tomorrow from 9:30 a.m. to 10:30 at Picante Cafe, 193 Main Street. That's the old Kumbaya's Cafe on Main Street, in case you don't know the name. And Mariondale is having a Spring Onto Nature open house Sunday, May 31st from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. They're having a tag sale, Tai Chi sessions, crafts, nature walks, plant a flower, learn sign language. A free family fun day for everyone, and that's at 299 North Highland Avenue.
And it'll be pretty quiet.
Yeah. And it's free. So.
If you're looking for some culture and theater this weekend in Ossining, there's going to be a production, or actually a reading, of an original play by the Westchester Collaborative Theater called Rosabelle Believe. It's Friday night at 8 o'clock and also Saturday at 2 p.m. at the Boudars Theater in the Ossining Public Library. You do have to buy tickets in advance, so if you go to the Westchester Collaborative Theater website, which is wctheater.org, there's a link there for brown paper tickets. It's $10. This is a great organization here in Ossining. They produce only original works, and this will be a very interesting reading. And if you're looking for something to do this weekend in Ossining, that's be a good thing to do. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk.
Okay, we'll move on to administrative reports, and we'll begin with Interim Village Manager Christina Babes.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. So to just kind of underline what some of the trustees mentioned, we have the Memorial Day Parade. We ask that you come out and support that. That's unfortunately not as well attended as some of our other festivities, but it's always wonderful to get out there and appreciate what others have done for us. If you can join that, that is Step Offs Monday, May 25th. At I think they're actually leaving at 9:30, but I think they want you guys there at 9. So.
Well, if you're marching, be there at 9. Then.
That's right. We don't want the public to give up on it if they don't hear any music. So, and then looking forward to June 13th, the Village Fair. June 20th is the Portuguese Festival, and our department heads will be working alongside the coordinators of these events to make successful events as they've done for for many years now, over decades. We have a lot on our agenda tonight. Again, we're doing a lot of wonderful things here in the village, most of which will be covered by the respective department heads. And our building inspector asked that I express his regrets for not being able to join you tonight. He had a pressing family engagement, and his report is produced for all the board members, and you should find them at your place setting, as well as was given to the clerk to be included in official record. We also have been receiving responses to the web blast and the promotion material that was sent out by Trustee Herrera in an effort to keep the community informed about the Spring Street 2A. And we ask that we continue to do that. We'd love to hear what the public is thinking, and we want to make the right changes for the community. So keep them coming. And that's really it. I'm going to hand it over to our Corporation Counsel, who's going to speak more at length of many of the items on the agenda.
Thank you. You'll see that item D is back on your agenda. This is the resolution that we tabled the last time we met in legislative session. I did confirm with Legislator Galiff's office that the amendment was made live on their website, and so therefore I could properly say that the bill number in the Assembly was A7318A. So that's moving forward, and the language in the bill in both houses indicate that without further ado that the property can be transferred. And since we have already resolved many months ago to be able to accept property, you know, there's three small pieces of property held in the Urban Renewal Agency's name, so we can pass along those deeds pretty quickly because we had the foresight to pass that resolution accepting that property before. So that's item D. It's back on your agenda. The other lengthy agenda item that we added this week is item G, and this has to do with the Community Choice Aggregation Program being spearheaded by Sustainable Westchester. This is an interesting program, and I've been working pretty closely with Mike Gordon and some members of his staff to get the wording correct on this. I did send up a request for an opinion from the Solicitor General's office to be sure that the village wouldn't be hampered in its efforts in that we would need to wait for a permissive referendum or even a required referendum. And things look good. We're going to wait for the final formal written opinion to come down, but with Mike Gordon's suggestions, we've put that in the resolution in your resolved paragraph that pending receipt of that written opinion, you can move forward. This will permit you to enter into an RFP with aggregation of 6 other communities to find the best prices for the default utility providers for your residents, saving them a tremendous amount of money. We did talk at length twice in work session on this, so when it came forward and we were able to put it on, I thank you for the consensus to be able to put it on for this evening because, again, it's conditional upon receipt, but we could move pretty quickly if that written opinion is received and we can proceed to the RFP. I know Sustainable Westchester has got a timeline that's pretty tight. They're anticipating receiving this written opinion with plenty of time for them to go to RFP and to get moving forward on negotiating really great rates on utilities for your residences. So more to come on that, I'm sure. We also put on the cabaret license that you talked about with Tierra Tropicales, and you had asked for us to reach out to the police department, and we did, and the 1 a.m. time frame was put in. The cabaret license would be, they had requested 2 a.m., but with the suggestions provided by the police department, we had left it open, and we let the applicant know that it would be either 2 or 1. And based upon the comments, it's 1 o'clock in your resolution. I just wanted to be sure to point that out with you. And just a reminder to the residents and members of the public, tag sale signs are starting to proliferate, and they're an eyesore, and we'd like your help. If you're holding a tag sale, to please be sure to go out the next day and walk around the village or drive around the village and remove the signs that you've put up. Really, it's kind of it's a nice thing to be able to recycle, reuse, readapt your home products, but we want to be sure that the tag sale signs are taken down timely. And if also if you're walking your dog, as I often do, or walking your children to the bus stop, if you see a sign that's a couple days old or even a week old, I would recommend you take it down and take it home and put it in with your recycling, because those signs can be recycled as their paper, and they'll be picked up every other Wednesday in due course and made into something reusable. The only other thing I need to remind folks, based upon some circumstances that have happened in the past couple of weeks, is not to put out your recycling or your garbage pails too early in the day before your pickup time. That is actually against the ordinance. It does make it difficult sometimes with navigating and circulating, and also if the winds come up and they get knocked over, it's very difficult to pick those items up as they're scattered around. So I just remind you to please put out your garbage pails and your recycling within the time limits. The evening before, generally after 5, would be acceptable. So putting them out too early is difficult. It's difficult, and it's also against the law. So I encourage you to do that. So thank you.
If I could just interrupt that. I forgot one more to mention, one big thing that's been going on. We were able to submit, the Village of Ossining submitted our application for the New York Prize to NYSERDA. That was completed the end of last week with the help of Mayor Garrity and Dana Levenberg from Sandy Gallif's office. So we're very excited. It was a lengthy process, and with the help of Paul Prioli and Andy Tees at the Village, we were able to pull together the necessary information and get this application submitted. So we'll see what happens, but we're very excited to have been to be able to get that in and to participate in this program. We'll see if we're successful.
For the folks at home, tell them what we'll win if we get this.
An opportunity to keep applying for stuff.
Yes.
Say, Christine, tell us what we win.
Yes, it's really just the first stage of multiple, I guess, a multi-phase competition for design and build out of a microgrid, which provides redundancy or assures resiliency during if there is a major storm and when there's outages. So critical facilities will stay energized and being able to provide the necessary services needed for our community.
Yeah, we actually learned in this process, and thank you very much, Christina Papes, for reminding the folks of that, because we have spoken about it in public meetings as we've been making the decision about this. We came to a point where we realized that Ossining, we had to present ourselves in an unusual manner in our application, because we have done such an excellent job at preparing for emergency storm resiliency that we have some very strong backup systems in place, particularly for like our water treatment plant and some of our critical infrastructure in the village. So that's a really great problem to have, that we have an unusual application, because we are particularly well prepared. Most municipalities are not as resilient as we are, and so we'll see what happens as we move forward.
Yep, as the mayor said, and I think that our professionals here at department heads don't do enough of kind of ringing the, I don't know, ringing their own horn or whatever, ringing their own bell, however it goes. When we first met and we had this idea for the submittal of the grant, it was reviewed and they said, you guys are in really good shape and you're kind of ahead of the curve where most municipalities are to provide energy during these major events. And so they kind of looked at things differently, and we looked at different options and made sure we included other facilities, and working collaboratively with Cablevision and the school district and Sing Sing and things like that to get and get our application and submit it. Thank you.
So thank you to Christina and our managers who were so helpful in getting together all that information in a timely fashion. Thanks.
Police Chief Joseph Burton.
Yes, good evening. Monthly statistics for April 2015, Water entries recorded 3,664. Vehicle and traffic summonses 362. Parking summonses 1,299.
Part 1 crimes and uniform crime reports were 22. Arrests for the month was 76. 37 penal law, 9 village ordinances, and 30 vehicle and traffic. Also, I'd like to congratulate Lieutenant Kevin Sylvester, who graduated Pace Law School this weekend. I know that's a lot of work, and it's a big accomplishment for him. And also, I'd like to thank the board for attending the police awards and memorial ceremony we had last Wednesday night. I know we quickened the pace up so you can make your work session on time. So thanks for attending, giving us the time. Thank you.
It was a really inspiring and moving ceremony. Thank you so much to you and everybody in the department who put it together. It was a pleasure to be a part of it. Thank you.
Chief Scarduzio is not here this evening. However, he did send me his report. The Ossining Fire Department has responded to 271 alarms to date with no major incidents to report. Fire Department will be holding the annual communion breakfast this Memorial Day weekend in memory of our deceased members. Reminder that the Fire Department's annual inspection will be held on June 27th, and the annual parade will be held on August the 7th. We'll move on to Village Engineer Paul Frioli.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees.
Good evening.
Yeah.
The first item I'd like to discuss is Resolution F on your agenda this evening. If you notice, this is the first time this resolution is in front of you, with one caveat. It has a 2-year span on the, I can't call it annual bids anymore. This is a material and supply bid. We changed it to a 2-year bid because over the last few years, we add more and more onto the list all the time to facilitate the things that we're doing. And we have noticed some stability coming back into the economy, where there's not a tremendous price fluctuation year over year in some of the things that we buy in bulk or some of the labor that we have. So these are fixed prices for 2 years, and we didn't get, I did not receive, nor did our office receive, any objection from any of our usual bidders to asking them to hold their price for 2 years. So administratively, we shed some workload, and we're still going to get the same in return. So as a segue, talking about annual bids, I will tell you that I was just reviewing our CHIPS balances, which is the capital highway improvement dollars that we receive from the state every year. And that balance, including the carryover that we did not spend in 2014 of $71,000, will be $310,000 that I'll soon sit with Manager Papes and Mr. Warren to discuss what roads we look to accomplish with that $310,000. I have some in mind, but we'll be bringing those forth shortly. One thing I want to draw to your attention is our typical CHIPS that we get every year from the state is $209,000. That increases steadily every year, but this year we received for the second year in a row what they call an EWR, which is an extreme weather R. I forget what the R stands for, but essentially the state is giving us an additional $29,000 in this year's contribution to address some of the more significant road damage that was done based on the extreme frost conditions we had this year. So that's why our totals are up above 300. That's going to help a lot.
Thank you. I assume that there was some sort of paperwork or process that you had to be on top of and go through to get us that additional money. So
every year we make the file based
Okay.
on our lane miles and any enhancements that we do to the road, and that's if it's within the right of way. It's not just paving. It can be sidewalks, curbing, paving, drainage, or anything relative to the road course itself, minus your potable water and your sanitary sewer. Can be reimbursed through those funds.
Thank you.
A comment that Manager Papes just made to me as I walked over, which I believe you received your invitations via email, on May 28th at the John Paul Rodriguez Ossining Operations Center. The union, CSEA union, for which all of our DPW workers are part. The state is coming down and sponsoring an event in remembrance of John Paul Rodriguez, who this summer will have passed away. This is the 10-year anniversary of that unfortunate incident. So the union, in conjunction with a contribution by the village, has created 2 stone memorials that we're going to place at the 2 cherry trees that were planted at the time of the incident 10 years ago in the Ossining Operations Center. We're going to place the memorials under those cherry trees at 11 a.m. on May 28th. There'll be light refreshments after to help remember John Paul. On a segue from Corporation Council, I can imagine that there must be a lot of people walking their dog and picking up tag sale signs and recycling them, because I'm happy to say that we received our certified report from the county, and the average county-wide recycling rate for all municipalities included in the county refuse district is even at 50%, and the village of Ossining is at its highest it's ever been. We have produced 23,000 total solid waste generated, for which 60% of that, 60, was recycled in some form. So that's the highest that Ossining Village has been since these numbers have been recorded and monitored by the county. So that's attributable to a lot of people, but primarily the residents and their focus on the environment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
We'll move on to Superintendent of Water and Sewers, Andrew Teese.
Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Our Indian Brook Reservoir is at 96% capacity. Last month we were at 98 capacity. And currently we're purchasing 80% of our water from New York City. Last month we were purchasing 35%. So it's a big increase. It's still not above the per capita charge, so the water rates are okay. It's not going to be a surcharge for us, but it's just a lack of rain. So we're about 96% capacity is about 6 inches below the spillway on 100 million gallons of storage. The cement water relining project, tonight we have a resolution to award the cement water relining project to Fletcher Kramer Contracting. We've used them in the past with great success, so we're looking forward to doing business with them. The spring water distribution hydrant flushing program was completed this month, so we're ready for the summertime increased consumption flows. We do that twice a year. The 2014 annual water quality report will be mailed out within the next week to all residents. If anybody has any questions regarding the report, they can call Stephen Ho at the Indian Brook Water Filtration Plant at 941-0128. Finally, we have met with representatives from Harbor Square this month to finalize all details for the installation of the 12-inch water main being installed on Snowden Avenue. They expect to go out to bid within the next few weeks. Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Move on to Treasurer Thomas Warren.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees.
Good
The
evening.
2014 financial audit is finally complete. We've received a paper copy of the audit reports as well as a PDF copy, and the auditors have been scheduled for a work session in June, the audited financial statements for 2014. We received our first quarter sales tax distribution from the county, $856,831. Unfortunately, this is down 4.56% from last year's first quarter payment, and brings us to 23.6% of the budget estimates. First quarter is sometimes lower than the rest of the quarters, so we're hoping that it's going to pick up. Also, sometimes the snowy and cold winters play into the reduced sales tax distributions. And also there has been talk specifically this year about the lower energy costs attributing to the lower sales tax collections. We are nearing the end of the 2-year redemption period for 2013 tax liens, which ends on June 1st, 2015. For these remaining unpaid tax liens, and there's 9 parcels remaining, the Deputy Corporation Counsel had sent out letters to the property owners advising of the expiring redemption date. The legal notice has been published in the newspaper. And we've also been contacting all the taxpayers, and we have been in contact with all the taxpayers. And our office is also sending out one final warning letter in tomorrow's mail advising of the June 1st date for redeeming the tax liens. Finally, as discussed at last week's work session, our office has been working on the government efficiency plan for the town and village as a joint filing, which is due June 1st, 2015, on the New York State tax freeze legislation, which allows for a 2% tax freeze credit to resident taxpayers. In addition to staying under the tax cap for 2015 and 2016 and not adopting a local law authorizing an override of the tax levy cap, our requirements were to find a little bit more than $312,000 in combined savings for the town and the village, since we were filing a joint application with the town. And this would be $312,000 in savings for each year, 2017, 18, and 19. After we updated the numbers and finalized them, the village's savings alone were nearly $726,000, which was from health insurance contributions from employees, the LED lighting initiative, and the 2012 transfer of function of the village justice court to the town court. In addition, the village also contributed savings to the town of nearly $797,000 for 2017 alone for the town police services. And combining with the town and the village savings together, we have more than $1.3 million identified for 2013, and that really wasn't having to dig very deep on these savings. So the application is going to be filed, and we'll give you a copy of it filed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Christopher Soy.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees.
Good evening.
Good evening.
A brief recreation program report, highlight a couple programs. Our day camp registration is still open and ongoing. At this time, only our Ryder Park camp is closed due to reaching its max enrollment. All other camps are still accepting registrations. Yeah, we're getting closer and closer to the summer season, so definitely encourage anyone who would like to take advantage of our day camp program to register as soon as possible. Information can be found on the Recreation Parks Department page of the village website. And you can also stop by the community center and always call the Recreation Department at 941-3189 for further information. A couple other programs just to highlight. The adult softball program, people have participated in or interested in actually going to see games, is in full swing. We have our men's and women's leagues both playing from this point on till mid-July. We have 4 games a night, 2 at Vets Park and 2 at Gerlach. So we have a very busy season, and that's in full swing for both men's and women's softball leagues. And our Austin Community Sailing Program has their 2 boats in the water, and we are getting they are getting, and we are helping in getting the final details together to begin their season of sailing. You can call the Recreation Office again for more information regarding this program. For our Parks report, we continue to maintain and manage the use of all the village athletic fields. The long stretch of dry weather, although not great for our grass, did help avoid many cancellations and rescheduling of games, so the Parks crew continues to work hard there. The landscaping and planting of flower beds in our triangles throughout town and other areas of the village is underway. Sidewalk cleaning in downtown began this week and continues for the remainder of this week. The ordering and the arrival of our hanging flower baskets is on schedule and will be in place the first week of June. A special events report, department The Rec Department helped support the Earth Day celebration, which was held on Saturday, April 18th at Lewis Angle Park. We also facilitated the Stash the Trash community cleanup event, which took place on Saturday, May 9th. Trustee Herrera also helped out in setting up a station right in downtown and assisted greatly in the community cleanup. And we also just supported and partly hosted the Clearview School 5K this past Sunday, May 17th, and that was a nice event. Just a special note, our tennis program began upon the opening of Nelson Park Courts on Friday, April 24th. I would like to take a moment to offer our department's condolences to the Ross family on the passing of Shannon Ross on Saturday, May 2nd, and to recognize her significant contribution to not only the Ossining Recreation and Parks Department, the Ossining tennis community, but the entire Ossining community. Thanks.
Thank you. Chris, just thank you for calling attention to the passing of Shannon Ross in this forum. And I also just wanted to say publicly that your department has been given a lot of kudos from folks out on the fields. We had that surprise torrential downpour Saturday morning, and by Saturday afternoon, the baseball fields were up and running and looking fantastic. And I know all of the teams and coaches and parents really took a lot of pride in it. And so thank you so much, and please pass on our gratitude to the Parks Department workers.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Village Planner Valerie Manostra.
Good evening. This report highlights the work, or some of the work that's been taking place in the Planning Department over the past month. The larger development projects, approval updates, Victoria Home, the applicant's proposing to reconstruct their facilities and create a facility for 120 beds. The draft environmental impact statement, public review and comment period is closed, and the applicant is now working on the final environmental impact statement of this project. We don't have a lot of other larger projects that are pending right now. However, we do have a tremendous amount of smaller projects. Actually, at this point in time, we have more applications submitted to our land use boards than we did last year. So things are really busy, especially at the smaller project level, dealing with additions, new home sales, some different businesses moving in. So things are pretty active. The Planning Board and Board of Architectural Review have reviewed 19 new applications so far this year. The Zoning Board of Appeals has reviewed 14 new applications so far. The Historic Preservation Commission has worked on 3 new applications and is continuing its work on this historic signage walking tour. And they're also commencing work on additional buildings to locally landmark, which they will be presenting to the Village Board at a future work session. And the Environmental Advisory Council has reviewed 1 draft environmental impact statement so far this year. The Village has created an interactive community engagement website entitled Village of Ossining, Become a Part of the Conversation. We would like, please go to http://villageofossining.mymixer.com or www.villageofossining.org, and their link is there to MyMixer. We have about approximately 204 people signed up for the website, and we are continuing to post new questions. Also, this month, the draft of the Village 2015 Stormwater Management Program Annual Report is now available for public review at the Department of Planning. The draft can also be accessed from the Village of Ossining website, and if you go www.villageofossining.org, under the Stormwater web page, the Village Stormwater plan documents are also available for public review at the Department of Planning. Any comments or questions, please submit them to the Department of Planning, and you can contact me at 914-762-6232. This particular program involves work that is throughout the year by the Planning Department, Department of Public Works, and the Building Department. Highlights for this program are as follows. Education and outreach was done through mailings as part of the Department of Public Works sanitation schedule, information provided at the Village Fair through the EAC booth, and public service announcements on our government television channels and 2 stations in the village where information is housed, created by the Planning Department and the Environmental Advisory Council. We also have 2 active stormwater construction sites in the village this year, Harbor Square and Avalon Bay. 100% of our active construction sites were inspected. Last year, approximately 252 acres of parking lots were swept, 3,230 miles of streets were swept, and 387 catch basins were cleaned. This year, we did not have any illicit discharge violations. And by law, for the public and also the board, the village is required to execute, manage, document, and have a repository for the following stormwater subject areas: public education outreach, public participation and involvement, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction site runoff control, post-construction runoff, and pollution prevention and good housekeeping. Also, the department is working on submitting 3 grants for the consolidated funding applications. The grants will include submissions for changes to Route 9, North Malcolm sewer line, and the Broadway Bridge repairs. And then finally, the department is working on revising municipal and train station parking with the legal, police, and engineering departments. The presentation of the proposed changes in draft law will be forthcoming in June. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that completes our reports. As our interim manager stated, Director of Code Enforcement, his report is on file for anyone who would like to review it. So we'll now move into organizational announcements. Is there anyone who has an organizational announcement?
I have one.
Oh.
So as you all heard before, the Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce has started their Uptown Initiative, which is to partner up all businesses, whether in the chamber or not, and really bring a focus to the Uptown area in addition to downtown. And if you saw the Patch article that was out this week, you saw 2 residents with brooms. That's because I believe it's Melrose Lumber and Ossining Hardware have partnered up to give discounts for all businesses and volunteers to buy brooms and cleaning supplies to start cleaning their sidewalks on a regular basis. So it's great to see people take that much pride and initiative to really continue to enhance and clean our downtown. So I just wanted to point that out. And I didn't mean to shout you out, but if you could just want to shout out the Ossining Lions Club and Rotary softball game.
Good evening. I'm Tom Evans, president of the Ossining Lions Club. And what Omar's talking about is on June 6th, the Ossining will be our first annual Ossining Rotary charity softball game. Thanks to Chris and his team for helping us set up at Veterans Park on June 6th between 3 and 5 o'clock. We are having an outstanding group of people playing. The whole idea is for people to come and bring their families. It's a free event, but we'd like to thank those people who have bought space in our program. We also will have as our umpire our good chief of police. Playing on the Ossining Lions Club will be Victoria and John Codman. And we're hoping to have a lot of fun with this. The Rotary will also be selling hot dogs and soda, and we invite all members of the Ossining community to join us. It's free, it's just to have fun, and we hope you can all attend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marion?
Chief?
Okay. The Ossining Public Library presents, and the Ossining Historical Society co-sponsors, 50 Years in Sing Sing, a personal account, 1879 to 1929. This is presented by the author's great-granddaughter, Penny Jarrett. Written more than 80 years ago by Penny Jarrett's great-grandfather, Alfred Coynes. 50 Years in Sing Sing is Coynes' account of his time working at the prison as a guard and keeper. Coyne relates harrowing and humorous stories of prison life from a guard's perspective and documents the changing conditions over his time, including descriptions of prison hardships, cruel punishments deemed appropriate at the time, daring escapes, and advent of the death by electricity, prohibition, and prison reform. This program will be presented at the library on Wednesday, May 27th at 7 p.m. Need any other information? You can probably use the Ossining Library website, www.ossinglibrary.org. Thank you.
Each one of those posters is on the first, second, and third floor of the municipal building. Yes, she did. Are there anyone else who would make organizational? And I have to look all the way around. No? Okay.
Yes, join us. No, there's another woman who's coming up right now.
Oh.
My name is Sheila Budicant. I live on Charter Circle. I am a very lucky woman. I live in the village of Ossining. The village of Ossining prohibits on-street parking between the hours of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. However, because I live in an area of the village where the number of cars exceeds the number of off-street parking spaces, I can pay the village of Ossining $50 a year for the privilege of parking on the street overnight.
Ma'am?
I was told that the streets need to be cleared so that the village can clean the streets. Alternate side of the street parking is in effect 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our street should be immaculate. I have heard or seen the street cleaners on many mornings. However, they do not come around on weekends or holidays. Then there is the subject of snow removal. I am a lucky woman. When there is a heavy snowfall, while I'm in my warm, comfy house, I can hear or see the snowplows go by at all hours of the day and night. The side of the street with no cars gets plowed to the pavement. The next day we have to dig our cars out and move them to the plowed side of the street. One would expect the snowplows to come and clean the unplowed side of the street. However, the unplowed side of the street remains unplowed. One has to wait until the snow melts. This creates a very dangerous situation. If there are cars on the newly plowed side of the street and snow piles on the unplowed side of the street, there is barely enough room for one car, much less an emergency vehicle, to travel along the two-way street. If the village trucks are not removing snow or cleaning the street, what are they being used for? Last winter, in an effort to move my car from one side of the street to the other, I slipped on the ice. I am a lucky woman. I landed on my amply padded hip. Nothing broke, but I had a 4-inch diameter bruise which lasted for several weeks. If I did not have to move my car to the other side of the street, I would not even have gone out of my house. Therefore, I humbly request that the Ossining Village Board review the parking laws to eliminate alternate side of the street parking on weekends and holidays, that the board review the snow clearance schedule so that both sides of the streets are plowed, and when dangerous conditions such as icy streets and sidewalks exist, possibly eliminate alternate side of the street parking altogether. Residents can be advised by Nextel. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. If you have that in writing, would you mind sharing it with the clerk? Thank you.
Are there any other announcements? Okay, we'll move on to village board resolutions. Is there anyone who'd like to comment on any of the agenda items this evening?
Oh, we do have, any of the items that we're going to be discussing in tonight's agenda, if you'd like to comment on them. Well, actually, Sheila's comments were given during the organizational announcements time and really should be at the end. And at the end, people can comment on any item that is of general interest to the community, if that would be all right. I didn't want to interrupt because that was you gave a very well thought out presentation. So thank you for sharing it. But for now, on general issues, we'll wait until the end when we have the public comments. Thank you.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the minutes of the May 6, 2015 regular meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
On the board, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves the voucher detail report dated May 20th, 2015 in the amount of $353,544.87.
So moved. Second.
On the board, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved, the village manager of the Village of Ossing is hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Westchester County, subject to review and approval of said agreement by Corporation Council for cooperative efforts involving the round-trip transport of prisoners to the Westchester County Department of Corrections in Valhalla and reimbursement to the village in accordance with the schedules provided in the agreement for the term commencing January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2016, or as earlier terminated by the parties. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that on behalf of the Village of Ossing, the mayor hereby requests from the Senate S 489-6A and the Assembly A 731-8A of the State of New York to the enactment of a special law otherwise known as a Home Rule Request, which legislation entitled An Act to Repeal Section 586 of the General Municipal Law related to the Ossing Urban Renewal Agency would permit the Village of Ossing to dissolve the Ossing Urban Renewal Agency as formed by an act of the New York State Legislature in 1964. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board? I'll just make a brief comment that we deliberated over this many, many times in recent months on whether or not to dissolve the Urban Renewal Agency, if there was any possible alternative use for it today. It was used in the 60s and 70s for, well, the urban renewal. We have seen some of it that was successful and some of it that is parking lots, and we're looking at how we might renew that now, 40 some odd years later. But it was discussed at length at village board meetings, and if anybody is interested in reviewing those, I can certainly dig up the dates on when we discussed it, and you can see our back and forth and all of the research that was done by Corporation Council and our village planner. So thank you very much for your work on moving this forward, Corporation Council.
I was going to just make one comment about it, that we did want to explore the notion of keeping it for some future purpose, but one of the things that the state has done is if the agencies are inactive and are not in use, the state has actually cited municipalities for not making use of them, and also there's a lot of administrative work that's now being required to keep them going. And as I think Trustee DeRaio pointed out, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. If we don't really have a real purpose for it, there's no sense in spending taxpayer money to maintain something that doesn't have a purpose for us. So I just want everybody to understand that this was something that I just explored and wanted to see if we had a possible use for it, but it really was not worth the effort. Go forward.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossing hereby awards the bid for contract number DPW 14-03, cleaning, cement mortar lining, and replacement of water mains to J. Fletcher Kramer and Son, Inc., 101 East Broadway, Hackensack, New Jersey, for the base bid amount of $1,986,742. Be it further resolved that the Village of Ossing may or may not, in its sole discretion, authorize add alternate bid item A, work in the amount of $352,663, and or add alternate bid item B, work in the amount of $234,762 at a later date. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas New York State law provides for a municipality to advertise for and award bids for certain materials and supplies and services as specified therein through the use of an annual bid process, which allows for the purchase of such items at a fixed cost to the municipality. And whereas the Village of Ossing has in place a procurement policy which provides for purchase and acquisition of certain materials and services by the village as required by New York State law, and whereas the Village of Ossing has advertised for materials and services through the annual bid process and has incorporated in the annual bid requirements for signed purchase orders for certain work as well as maximum work to be undertaken by an annual contractor and maximum project expenditures without pre-approval of the village manager or the Board of Trustees, consistent with New York State laws and the Village of Ossing procurement policy. And whereas the Village of Ossining has advertised for annual bids consistent with New York State law and has received responses to such advertisements, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby awards the bids for materials, supplies, and services for 2015 and 2016 in accordance with the attached recommendations from the Department of Public Works. Item circles represent recommendations. Said award to remain in effect from May 1st, 2015 to April 30th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's reflected in the final paragraph, so be it resolved that this is really a 2-year process. Would it be more appropriate for us to refer to it as a biannual bid rather than an annual bid now that we've changed the length of time?
It was unique to this particular round of bidding, so
Okay.
we can call it a biannual bid in this resolution if need be, but there's always an option to go back to on an annualized basis. This is sort of a pilot program, as it were.
That's fine. I just didn't know if it was, it's a little strange to call it an annual bid when we're doing it for 2 years. I think it was just if there's another term or, okay. If it's acceptable, then it's fine.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas Sustainable Westchester, Inc., a not-for-profit organization comprised of over 40 municipalities in Westchester County, of which the Village of Ossining is a member, sought approval of a demonstration community choice aggregation program in Westchester County in 2014, which would allow local governments to participate in a Sustainable Westchester program to procure energy supply from energy services companies for the residents of the municipalities. And whereas the CCA program is intended to provide consumers with the ability to lower their overall energy costs, and the potential benefits of CCA programs include price stability for a fixed contract term, lower prices, more favorable contract terms, and the ability to design a program that reflects local preferences and needs, including a preference for cleaner power sources. And whereas on February 26, 2015, the Public Service Commission of the State of New York approved implementation of the first CCA pilot program in New York State, which allows Sustainable Westchester to put out bid for the total amount of natural gas or electricity being purchased by local residents or small businesses. And whereas the Westchester pilot program is intended to include residential and small non-residential customers, and to permit the aggregation of both electric and natural gas purchases by the communities which elect to participate, and where Sustainable Westchester, Inc. will issue a request for proposals to suppliers to provide energy to participants, and will then award a contract, and where Sustainable Westchester, Inc. or the village will request individual customer data from the current utility without due consideration for privacy, and the without, okay, I thought that was strange. Okay, with due consideration of privacy. And the selected supplier will then notify the bundled customers of the contract terms and provide the customers with an opportunity to opt out of the program within 20 days. And whereas based upon the plain meaning of the text and prior interpretations of the general municipal law, the village is of the opinion that it may participate in a CCA program without undertaking a referendum, as set forth in General Municipal Law 360, which applies only to the construction, leasing, purchasing, acquisition, use, or ownership of a public utility service as defined in General Municipal Law. And whereas Corporation Counsel has transmitted a request for written opinion from the Office of the New York Solicitor General, confirming the opinion as to a need for referendum and subsequent communication, indicates that a favorable written response is expected. Now therefore be it resolved that following receipt of the aforementioned favorable written opinion from the Office of the Solicitor General, the Village of Ossining shall enter into an agreement with Sustainable Westchester for participation in a CCA program for its residents and business consumers who are not already purchasing electricity from ESCO only if, 1, the default price is guaranteed to be consistently less than the utility price for the same period, or 2, the default price is fixed at a level that is less than the average utility price for the same commodity for the same customer class over the preceding 12-month period, or 3, the default price is at first set at a level that is less than the average utility price for electricity for the same customer class over the preceding 12-month period and only floats upwards by less than 25% of the price increases implemented by the utilities, and be it further resolved that the village agrees to notify residents and business owners eligible for inclusion in the program in a manner that the village deems most effective and efficient in advance of any implementation of the program, and be it further resolved that the village manager is hereby authorized to execute any and all documents to give effect to this resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Does any, on the board?
No.
Okay. You want to say something? Yeah.
No, you
Okay.
go ahead. I know it's your.
Say
No,
something?
no, go
I'm
ahead.
going to say something, but you can speak first if you'd like, Trustee Godwin.
Okay. Just so everybody understands, there's that one section there. There was this one item here where they said without any consideration. There will be due consideration for privacy. So,
Yes,
just
we
to,
took the out.
yes, I thank you for taking that out. I was going to bring it up. The great thing about this program is it's going to save by aggregating our purchase of energy, both electricity and natural gas. We'll be able to significantly lower the price for all customers and small businesses that are in the communities that participate. So it's great that we as a government, as a local government, can enact something like this that would have a great financial benefit to all of our constituents. So I'm very proud to vote for this tonight.
Yes, I could not be more excited about it. Did you want to comment, Trustee Herrera? You looked like you were on the...
No, I'm just listening to you.
No. I just wanted to say that it's great to see this come to, a reality and fruition after Sustainable Westchester has really led the effort for so many municipalities. I would say, for how long now, as this whole program was in the works?
Yes, I will speak to that, yeah.
And this is, a resolution that will actually affect the overall Austining resident, and it's, as Trustee Diamond mentioned, an opportunity to reduce our rates, which is very important then nowadays, as you all hear. So.
Right, and it is. It will have an opportunity to save for residents to save money in their electric bill as well as their natural gas bill. And I am so thrilled to be able to participate in this. If you've ever heard me speak about NWEAC, the Northern Westchester Energy Action Consortium, for many years, I was on the board there, and then helped transition it to become Sustainable Westchester. So now it is a nonprofit organization whose members are the municipalities of Westchester. I think we've now got all but 2 of the county are now officially members of Sustainable Westchester, and this is what it's for. It's an excellent example of sharing the intellectual capital from across the county for the benefit of the municipality members. And in this case, it's to provide direct savings to our residents through this community choice aggregation, which is really gives us more choices in how to save money and how we source our energy. Although most people would not, you're not watching this meeting and you're not paying attention to your mail, you won't even notice a change because you're just going to keep getting a Con Ed bill. But where the energy is being sourced from, we have more freedom and more choice, and by working together with Sustainable Westchester and aggregating with other communities, we can seek out some lower rates for our residents. So thank you very much, Corporation Counsel and all of the department heads who may have helped make this possible. I know it was some legal figuring out with working with our partners in Sustainable Westchester, so I'm very excited to be supporting this evening. Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Whereas pursuant to Chapter 100 and 171 of the Code of the Village of Ossining, Restaurant Tierras Tropicalis has made application to the village clerk as a licensing officer for a cabaret license for live music on Fridays and Saturdays from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., and was pursuant to Section 100-3 and 100-5 of said village code, the village clerk has caused an investigation into such application and referred the same to the Board of Trustees for final approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby approves a cabaret license for Tierras Tropicalis for the 2015 calendar year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
On the board?
All
Matt.
those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Fire Chief, Gavin Glenn of Osting was elected an active member of the Senate Hook and Ladder Company Number 1 for interior firefighting at the regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolved that upon the recommendation of the Fire Chief, Michael Zinnan of Austin, New York, was elected an active member of Hollow Hose Company Number 5 for interior firefighting at their regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
On the board? Madam Clerk?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any continuing business of the board?
Nope.
Is there any new business of the board?
Why, yes, there is. You know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. Climate change is a fact. The science is there and inescapable. Saying you don't believe in climate change is like saying you don't believe in hats. There are things that exist. So, to that end, in order to support getting the New York State Legislature and Senate to pass reasonable laws to help slow down, if not stop, this climate change, I'd like to make the following resolution. It's called the 2015 Climate Change Resolution. Whereas climate pollution is having a major impact on our health, our environment, and our economy. And whereas poor air quality is making our children sick and shortening the lives of some seniors. Whereas rising temperatures, prolonged heat waves, and severe storms are costing our economy billions in lost production and infrastructure and property damage. And whereas the continuing use of fossil fuels across all sectors of our economy, including energy production, manufacturing, transportation, and buildings, continues to exacerbate climate pollution. Whereas the state must embark on a path away from New York's dirty and fossil fuel-reliant past towards a cleaner, healthier future, one where polluters are required to pay for the true costs of climate pollutions, and New Yorkers' energy needs are met by a system that is more efficient, conserves more, uses less, and relies more on renewable sources. Therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining hereby calls upon the Governor and the State Legislature to enact legislation establishing a comprehensive climate action plan that serves as a framework for all energy-related policy decisions, including but not limited to government operations and procurements, economic development and clean energy initiatives, regulatory and utility rate proceedings, and permitting processes. And the Board of Trustees of the Village of Ossining recognizes the true cost of climate change by calling upon the Governor and the New York State Legislature to enact and enforce a climate pollution penalty that forces polluters across all sectors of the economy to account for the damage caused by their climate-altering emissions and invest penalty proceeds in a clean energy economy, renewable power, efficiency, and technology innovation, while providing funding for community transitions, green workforce development, job creation, utility cost relief, and further reductions in emissions.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Well, like
Can I just can I just have some clarity? We are we passing this resolution right now?
I would like to.
Okay. Is there anything further that needs to be done as far it's read into the record and okay.
Can I just
Yes, please comment.
on the table? Is that now?
Yes,
or,
now would be the time.
No. This is another example of how serious this board is to finding ways to really address the lack of sustainable approaches and lifestyles and operations that unfortunately we have at the state still. And climate change is a reality, despite what you hear. Science supports it. We see it. And if you want to call it something else, that's fine. But we are committed to finding ways to be of an influence at a state and national level, but also, as you see right here in Ossining, the many efforts that we're doing to be green and sustainable, and really care for our environment. It just proves that.
further comment?
I will actually thank Bob Durayo, our fellow trustee, and actually bringing this up to our table. And actually, I echo what Omar said. It's very important for us to be conscious of what is actually going on out there. A lot of things are changing. Climate is definitely changing, and very important for us to start taking care of the earth, our cities, our town, our villages, and without the support of other municipalities, not that much that we can do. And actually, Austin, the village of Austin, is doing a lot of that stuff. So just keep watching our work sessions. We actually do a lot of work as well in regards to how green we want Austin.
I thank you, Trustee Durayo, for bringing this forward for our consideration, and I see that we have a consensus of support, and I'm very pleased about that. When I first got into office, I went up to Albany for a conference, and I heard Governor Cuomo speak, and he said that the thing that keeps him up at night, and he is most concerned about the state being able to manage, is severe weather incidents. And he has done a couple of helpful things in that regard. The anti-fracking moratorium was pretty remarkable once it did finally happen. I still don't trust it, but that's a significant step in the right direction. Yet we have a pipeline going that's being expanded underneath our nuclear power plant in close proximity here. So really asking the state to take a strong, definitive plan on this is very wise, and I certainly support encouraging that. I will also say one of the, it's almost referenced here when talking about different opportunities for municipalities to take on is like the CCA is another excellent example of being able to do that, and it was a multi-year challenge to get the state to approve this pilot program that we're participating in. It's only Westchester municipalities that are eligible to participate in at this stage, although it's a program that exists in 6 other states in the country that we're learning from. So the state has done some good things incrementally, but there's certainly a lot more that needs to be done, and so thank you for bringing this forward. And with that, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That completes your resolutions. We'll move on to visitor recognition. Is there anyone who would like to address the board?
Yes, now it would be the perfect time. Please join us.
My name is Linda Nicholson, and I live at 29 Forest Avenue in the village of Ossining. And I want to refer back to Sheila's comments on snow removal. And mine isn't necessarily this year, it was in 2013, and I want you to know what happened to me. On my street, and it's a very narrow one, cars are parked on both sides. It isn't wide enough, let me tell you. And so at the end, my side of the street was never plowed until the very end of the winter. I wrote letters and sent pictures to the mayor, to the village manager, and to the man in charge of snow plowing. Not one had the decency to respond to me. So I then started with the snowplow department, and he told me that he had sent his letter to the village manager because it wasn't his responsibility. And the mayor said, "Oh, I never saw my letter." The village manager did talk to me, but in fairness to everyone, I did know him, and he tried to address it. It was too late. I called the police almost daily, and they said it's not their responsibility. And cars were parked in front of my house for days on end. I had 2 mounds of ice on either side. It cost me $1,200 to have my car fixed because I couldn't get out of my driveway. Let me just tell you, the good news is that this year the plowing was better. My only negative comment is when they finally got around to plowing my side of the street again, they did it, but I had just paid to have my sidewalk plowed, and when they did it, of course, the snow landed in my plow, and that would have been okay had I not seen people sitting in their trucks doing nothing. I think if they're going to do that, then they could have swept it away. And I know you can say that I should do it, and I don't mind shoveling snow, but this year, for the very first time in my life, at 73 years old, I had somebody plow or to shovel it, and I did not get out and shovel it. And had I gotten a fine, believe me, I would have been here a lot sooner. So when I first moved here 46 years ago, You had to get your car off the street if it were snowing. And on my segment of the street, there are long driveways. And I understand people have renters and don't want to let them park in their driveway, but I believe they should be forced to. 3 houses around me have 21 cars between them. I have one. I have a Subaru Impreza, which is not a huge car. Sometimes I can't get down my street. So this is major. It took over my whole life that year. And you'd think I'm still angry, but only when I talk about it. And I'm sorry for that, but I do want you to understand what an impact it is, financial and psychologically.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
comments. Actually, thank you for reminding us at the end of the winter. I brought my concerns to my colleagues and said we should revisit this, and we don't want to forget once the snow is melted, and it is easy to forget that this winter happened as it did. And if we're going to start having winters like that, where it's storm after storm after storm and it never melts from December through March, that do we want to change some of our practices? It's interesting you said 46 years ago, to your recollection, cars had to be off of your streets, and I wonder when that policy changed. I know that's still the case in some municipalities, so thank you for reminding us of this horrors of this last winter. Thank you to Mother Nature, and also for your positive comments about the snow removal that you did experience that was positive and helpful, because I know that our department worked incredibly diligently on snow removal all winter long. So thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Not seeing anyone, I'll call for an adjournment to executive session for personnel for a specific individual.
So moved.
On the board, Madam Clerk.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And with that, I thank you very much for joining us for this week's regular meeting of the Village Board of Trustees, and I encourage you to please join us next week, May 27th. It will be our work session held at 16 Croton Avenue, Village Hall, and I want to say thank you very much to Christina Papes for once again stepping up to being our interim village manager so that we have a very smooth transition here in village management. You've done an excellent job. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Victoria,
Yes,
before
sir.
they go, I just want to say thank you to everybody who showed up tonight. It is such a pleasure not to be talking to a room full of empty seats. Thank you for coming out.
And with that, this meeting is adjourned. Good evening.